Class 11, Chapter 5 Morphology of Flowering Plant. The wide range in the structure of higher plant will never fail to fascinate us, even though the angiosperm shows such a large diversity in external structure or morphology. They are all characterized by presence of roots, stem, leaves, flower, and fruits. In chapter 2nd and 3rd, we talk about the classification of plant based on morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at classification and at understanding any higher plant, or for that matter for any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variation in different parts found as adaptations of the plant to their environment. Example, adaptations to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, stems, and leaves. They may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground form the shoot system. Figure 5.1, the root. The majority of the dicotyledonous plant, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of primary root which grow inside the soil. It bears lateral root of several orders that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system as seen in the mustard plant figure 5.2a. In monocotyledonous plant, the primary root is short-lived and is replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system as seen in the wheat plant figure 5.2b. In some plants like grass, monstera, and the banyan tree, roots arise from the part of the plant other than the radicle and are called adventitious roots. Figure 5.2c. The main function of the root system are absorption of water and mineral from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food material, and synthesize the plant growth regulator. Figure 5.1 Parts of a flower plant. Figure 5.2 Different types of roots: tap, fibrous, and adventitious root. 5.1.1 Region of the root. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. Figure 5.3. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled, and with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to the region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. The region is called a region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone proximal to the region of elongation and is called as the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells from very fine and delicate thread-like structure called root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. Figure 5.3 The region of the root cap. 5.2 Stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is the ascending part of the axis bearing branches, leaves, flower, and fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. The seed bears nodes and internodes. The region of the stem where leaves are born are called nodes, where internodes are proportion between two nodes. The stem bears buds which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flower, and fruit. It conducts water, mineral, and photosynthesis. Some stems perform the function of storage of food, support, and protection, and of vegetative propagation. 5.3 The leaf. The leaf of a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later developed into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot-apical meristem and the arrangement in an acropetal order. They are the most important vegetative organ for photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf, base, petiole and lamina. Figure 5.4a. The leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structure called stipule. In monocotyledon, the leaf base expands into a sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plant, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called the pulvinus. The petiole help hold the blade to light. Long, thin, flexible petiole allow leaf blade to flutter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to leaf surface. The lamina or the leaf blade is green expanded part of the leaf with veins and windlets. There is usually a middle prominent vein which is known as the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and acts as a channels of transport for water, mineral and food material. The shape, margin, apex, surface and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. 5.3.1 Venation. The arrangement of veins and the veinlets in the lamina of leaf is termed as venation. When the veinlets form a network, the venation is termed as reticulate. Figure 5.4b. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as parallel. Figure 5.4c. Leaves of dicotyledonous plants generally possesses reticulate venation, while parallel venation is the characteristic of most monocotyledonous. 5.3.2 Type of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. The incision do not touch the midrib. When the incision of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into a number of leaflets, the leaf is called compound. A bud is present in the axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflets of the compound leaf. The compound leaves may be of two types. Figure 5.5. In a pinnately compound leaf, Figure 5.4 Structure of leaf: A. Parts of leaf, B. Reticulate venation, C. Parallel venation. Figure 5.5 Compound leaves: A. Pinnately compound and B. Palmately compound. Number of leaflets are present on a common axis, the rachis, which represent the midrib of the leaf as in neem. In palmately compound leaves, the leaflets are attached at a common point at the tip of petiole as in the silk cotton. 5.3.3 Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem of branches. This is usually of three types: alternate, opposite and whorled. Figure 5.6. In alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner as in China rose, mustard and sunflower plant. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other at a calotropis and a guava plant. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whorl, it is called whorled, as in Elastonia. Figure 5.6 Different types of phyllotaxy: A. Alternate, B. Opposite and C. Whorled. Figure 5.7 Racemose flowers. Inflorescence. 5.4 The inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internode do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produce different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive node instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flower on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose type, of inflorescence, the main axis continue to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an equipetal succession. Figure 5.7. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order. Figure 5.7. 5.5. The flower. The flower is the reproductive unit of an angiosperm. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different types of whorls arranged successfully on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicle, called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and is termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamen or any carpel is called unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial planes passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Example: mustard, datura, chili. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic. Example: pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center. As in canna, a flower may be trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous when the flower appendages are in multiple of 3, 4, or 5 respectively. The flower with bracts, reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicle are called bracteate, and those without bracteates are ebracteates. Figure 5.9. Position of floral parts on thalamus: A. Hypogynous, B. Perigynous, C. Perigynous, D. Epigynous. Based on the position of calyx, corolla, and androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. Figure 5.9. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior. Example: mustard, china rose, and brinjal. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flowers are located in the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior. Example: plum, rose, peach. Example: in epigynous flower, the margin of thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting confused with it. The other part of the flower rises above the ovary, hence the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flower of guava and cucumber, and the ray of florets of sunflower. 5.5.1. Parts of flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral whorls, with calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Figure 5.10. 5.5.1.1. Calyx. The calyx, the outermost wall of the flower and the member of called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like, and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepal united, or polysepalous, sepal free. 5.5.1.2. Corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brighter colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be camopetalous, petal united, or polypetalous, petal free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly. In plant, corolla may be tubular, bell shaped, funnel shaped, or wheel shaped. Estivation. The mode of arrangement of sepal or petal in floral bud with respect to the other members of the same wall is known as estivation. The main type of estivation are valvate, twisted, implicate. Figure 5.10. Parts of flower. And vexillary. Figure 5.1.1. When sepal or petals in a wall just touch one another at a margin without overlapping, as in calotropy, is said to be velvet if one margin of the appendages overlap that of the next one, and so on. In China rose, ladyfinger, and a cotton is called twisted if margin of sepals of petal overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in Cassia and Gulmohar. The estivation is called imbricate. In pea and beans flower, there are five petals. The largest standard overlaps two lateral petals wings, which in turn overlap two smallest anterior petals kneel. The type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionaceous. 5.5.1.3 Endoecium. Endoecium is composed of stamen. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has two chambers. The pollen sac, the pollen grain are produced in pollen sac. Steri stem is called staminode. Stamen of flower may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petal, they are epipetalous as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth as in the flower of lily. The stamen in a flower may either remain free, polyandrous, or may be united in varying degree. The stamen may be united into one bunch or one bundle, monoadelphous, as in China rose, or two bundle, diadelphous, as in pea, or into more than two bundles, polyadelphous, as in citrus. There are may be variation in the length of the filament within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. 5.5.1.4 Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower, as is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel constitutes of three parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Ovary is enlargement basal part on which lies the elongated tube. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of style and is the receptive surface for pollen grain. Each ovary bears one or more ovule attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. They termed as syncarpus when carpel fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovule developed into seed and ovary matured into a fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types of namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and free central. Figure 5.12. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along a ventral suture of the ovary and ovule borne on this ridge, forming two rows as in P. When the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be axial, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovule developed on an inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered, but it becomes two chambered due to the formation of the false septum. Example: mustard and acrimony. When the ovules are borne on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called free central. In basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of ovary and in single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower, marigold. 5.6 The fruit. Fruit is characteristic feature of the flowering plant. It is mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. It is fruits formed without fertilization of the ovary. It is called as parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seed. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp, and an inner endocarp. If mango and coconut, the fruit is known as drupe. Figure 5.13. They develop from a monocarpellary superior ovary and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin and epicarp. a middle fleshy edible mesocarp and an inner stony hard endocarp. The coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. Figure 5.13 parts of a fruit, A mango, B coconut. 5.7 Seed. The ovule after fertilization develop into seed. A seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of radicle and embryonal axis and one, as in wheat, maize, or two cotyledons, as in gram and pea. 5.7.1 Structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and inner tegmen. The hilum is the scar on the seed coat through which the developing seed were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a spore called micropylar. Within the seed coat is embryo constituting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserved food material. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present at the radicle and the plumule. Figure 5.14. If some seeds such as castor and endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seed. In plants such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seed and such seed are called non-endospermous. 5.7.2 Structure of monocotyledonous seeds. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but as in orchid and non-endospermic. In the seed of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endocarp is bulky and stored food. The outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called the aileron layer. The embryo is small and situated in the groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cartilage, also known as scutellum, and a short axis with the plumule and a radicle. The plumule and a radicle are enclosed in a sheath which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza, respectively. Figure 1.15. 5.8 Semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief, in a simple and scientific language, and presented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habit, vegetative character, root, stem and leaves, and then floral character, inflorescence and flower plants. After describing various parts of the plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are represented. The floral formula is represented by some symbols. In floral formula, PR stand for the bracteate, K stand for calyx, C for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium and G for gynoecium. G under bracket for superior ovary and G for inferior ovary. For male and female, for bisexual plant, for actinomorphic. And the percentage symbol for zygomorphic nature of flower. Fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure within bracteate and addition by a line drawn above the symbol of the floral part. A floral diagram provides information about the number of floral parts, their arrangement and their relation they have with one another. Figure 5.16. The position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. The calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium are drawn successively walled, calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being the center. Floral system also show cohesion and addition within the parts of the walls and between walls. The floral diagram and floral formula in different 5.16 represent the mustard plant family Brassicaceae. 5.9 Solanaceae. It is a large family commonly called as the potato family. It is widely distributed in tropics, subtropics and even temperate zone. Figure 5.17. Vegetative characters: plants mostly herbs, shrubs and rarely small plants. Stem herbaceous, rarely wood, aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched, solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous underground stem in potato, Solanum tubersome. Leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, accipulate, venation, reticulate. Figure 5.70 Solanum nigrum McCoy plant A flowering twig, flowering less of flower, stamen, carpel, floral diagram. Floral character: inflorescence solitary, axillary or cymose as in Solanum. Flower bisexual, actinomorphic, calyx sepal, 5 united, persistent, valvate estivation, corolla petal 5, united, valvate ascension, endoecium stamen 5, epipetalous, gynoecium bicarpellary, obligate, place in carpus, ovary superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovule exile, fruit berry or capsule, seed many endosperm, floral formula. Economic important: many plants belong to this family are source of food: tomato, brinjal, potato, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory, tobacco, ornamentals, petunia. Summary: flowering plants exhibit enormous variation in shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, lifespan, habitat. They have well defined root and shoot system. Root system is either taproot or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plants have taproot, while monocotyledonous plants have fibrous root. The root in some plants get modified for storage of food, mechanical support, and respiration. The shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flower, and fruits. The morphological feature of stem, like the presence of node and internode, multicellular hair, and possibly phototrophic nature, help to differentiate the stems from the roots. Leaf is a lateral outgrowth of a stem developed exogenously at the node. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibit marked variation in their shape, size, margin, apex, and extent of incision of leaf plate lamina. The flower is modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescence. They exhibit enormous variation, structure, symmetry, position of ovary in relation to other parts, arrangement of petals, sepals, ovule, etc. After fertilization, the ovary is modified into fruits and ovule into seeds. Seed either may be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size, and period of viability. The floral characteristics form the basis of classification and identification of flowering plant. This can be illustrated through semi-technical description of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described as a definite sequence by using scientific terms. The floral features are represented in the summarized form as of floral diagrams and floral formula.